welcome back. We are on Module 5, and it is Reconciliation, the Peace Treaty. This is our final module, and this module encompasses the work of all the other modules. It's difficult to actually get to this part of the family system interactions, reconciliation is, because it takes all of the other skills, the unity, the communication, the decision not to be estranged, the decision to forgive. So those sometimes are the hurdles that impede a family member's ability to get to the peace treaty. If we're able to introduce people to the peace treaty, we should be excited, and we should also be very careful to give them the right tools so that they don't lose hope, and so that they can continue to use these skills and have hope that there is an opportunity to reunify after injury. I think this is the most beautiful module because it represents Christ, and it represents God and his love towards us, and his objective to just be in relationship with us, and his willingness to have mercy and to work with us. So if you are in the reconciliation phase, it's important to note that you have willing people who are committed to the relationship and committed to developing themselves as individuals. And so that is to be commended. And it is also something to recognize that everyone won't participate in, because there's such a misunderstanding about it. Some people believe that reconciliation is forgiveness, or should I say forgiveness is reconciliation, when actually forgiveness is a one-party action. It is a part of building a bridge that one can only cross if there is forgiveness and if there is an understanding and safety, which is part of the reconciliation plan. That's why we're calling this the Reconciliation Peace Treaty, because you have to have a strategic order and a strategic plan of how you're going to be back into fellowship after such a breach or break. You want to acknowledge that the system was broken, the relationship was broken, and in order to not re-injure one another, in order to not cause another breach, we have to do an assessment of what happened. We have to do an autopsy of the relationship so that we can assess boundaries that were broken, selfishness that might have entered, lack of communication, emotional dysregulations. We have to be able to assess all of that and bring those experiences into the reconciliation process. But yeah, this is celebratory. This is a big deal, like I said, because usually you don't get people to the table. This is coming to the table. So just allowing families to know that there is a table and that you can come to the table, and there can be strategy and planning to protect one another in the family. That is such good news. As you can see, I'm excited about that, because I don't see a lot of people who sit at the table of reconciliation, unfortunately. And our world is filled with people who have chosen to be estranged, chosen not to forgive, even in the church. So this table, this beautiful table called reconciliation, is to be honored, reverenced, and to be acknowledged as a special place for people who are willing to do special things. Mature people, real Navy SEALs, real people who are just, can take a licking, so to speak, and keep on ticking. I'm not saying sign up for abuse, but can recover from the injury of being in a relationship. So what is reconciliation? Reconciliation is to do again, to become friendly again, to become good again, meaning that something has happened and you're no longer good. You're no longer in good fellowship. You're no longer in good connection. And there is a lack of friendliness. So it is a re-engagement of the celebration of lives together. And that's so important, the celebration of life together. We were made to live together. And so reconciliation acknowledges that. It's a declaration that we were made to live together, and we get to there is an opportunity for a do-over. It's not a one all and done, because God doesn't treat us that way. So we get to create safety, that even if you make a mistake, come, let us reason. Come, let us talk about it. Come, let us sit at the table and find a strategy so that we can live together in harmony. Because guess what? We're going to live together, whether it's in harmony or whether it's in fighting and chaos. And even if you're away, you can still be fighting on the inside. So you might as well accept the fact that we're yet together. We're yet together. And so we want to make good connections. Again, in order to begin, what's needed for the peace treaty, the reconciliation? Forgiveness is a prerequisite. And forgiveness, again, as a review, it just means that you're no longer holding what someone did against them, and you're no longer stopping your love and your goodness from flowing to them because of the offense. But you are willing to let your love flow to them, even if you're not in relationship, because relationship takes forgiveness. It takes sitting down and having this action that we're about to talk about, which is re-friendlying one another, reconnecting again, and acknowledging again. But forgiveness is very important. It's a one-person process. The person could be dead. The person could not even want to be in a relationship with you, but you get to forgive them. You get to let them off the hook. And so then at the peace treaty, number 2, it takes the remorsefulness. It takes actions that demonstrate remorse, an apology, a heartfelt apology, an acknowledgement of what transpired and what the offense was. It takes that the literal asking of forgiveness for hurting the person, for not being there for the person, for whatever it is, for violating the person. It takes accountability. Number 3, it takes accountability. You don't say, I did this because, you did this, or I did this because I was molested as a child. I did this because I felt like you owed me, or I took all of the items from, the inheritance because I felt like you had everything already and I wanted something for myself. It removes all the excuses and it just looks at the man in the mirror. You're willing to take accountability. There has to be accountability because that creates safety. Number 4, there has to be a willingness to communicate. You have to get your big pants on, and you have to say, okay, I'm going to have to feel this thing, and then I'm going to have to be able to communicate effectively. We talked about effective communication. We're not going to be attacking. We're not going to condescend. We're not going to have contempt, and we're not going to be defensive, and we're not going to shut down when we hear something that we don't like. But we are going to commit to communication. And part of committing to communication is committing to emotional regulation. Because remember, if you're dysregulated and your emotions are all over the place, you're not going to be very good at communicating. So you're committing, you have a willingness to communicate, which is also managing your emotions. And then there's a willingness to work for the win-win, the team approach, the wellness, the wellness approach. The we in wellness is we. I'm going to think about you, what you need. I'm willing to think about what I need, and I'm willing to negotiate and come to a happy medium so everyone is safe and everyone feels heard, seen, and understood. And then there has to be a willingness to be humble. We talked about that, humble. You have to be willing to not be right. If you're going to show up at the table, the peace table, the peace treaty, and process the reconciliation, you are going to have to get small. You're going to have to not want to feel like I'm right. You're going to have to give up your right to be right. And you have to be able to want to hear, see, and understand one another equally, and know that there is no competition. This is not a legal proceeding. I don't have to be right, and you don't have to be right, because then that causes a lot of defensive responding. Well, you did this. Well, you did that. Well, you did this, or and you're attacking and trying to make yourself look better and be the right one. And it's just the willingness to be humble says we're all on the same playing field. We all need grace. We all need mercy. I saw things my way. You saw things your way. We both experienced it and we're both hurt. So how can we both win? because it's about the unit winning. And then it's about being willing to formulate realistic expectations. Because if you come to this table and say, look, I'll reunite as long as you never do this, you never hurt me again. If you hurt me again, I'm out, and I expect perfection. I expect you to immediately learn how to talk to me. I immediately expect that you'll never make a mistake or overlook me or any of those things. That's unrealistic. So you have to be willing to formulate realistic expectations. Realistic expectations at the peace table, at the peace treaty or the peace table. Let's call it, I like peace table. Let's go back to peace table. And then there has to be a willingness to adhere to respectful boundaries. Almost like get on the witness stand. I solemnly swear to adhere to the protective boundaries that respect you, that respect I, that respects everyone involved. I will not steal. I will not violate personal property. I will not sexually assault anyone. I will not verbally or physically assault anyone. And if I do and it's brought to my attention, I will acknowledge the trespass and get back in line. You have to be willing to adhere to the boundaries, because boundaries keep the system guarded. It protects the members of the unit. Everyone needs to feel safe, and everyone gets to feel safe. That is a goal that is a mutual benefiting for everyone involved. So the peace strategy, and AKA reconciliation plan strategy, is that you have to be strategic. Remember, we talked about by the time we get people here, we don't want to play here, we don't want to wing it, we don't want to be disorganized, but we have to have some prefrontal cortex working. We have to know that this has to be planned. Yes, we're bringing our feelings to the table, but our feelings are not going to lead this reconciliation process. We need our spirituality, which is our prefrontal cortex functioning of the brain, and we need to be able to plan, control our impulses, see the future, and be rational, right? And be fair. So that's going to take planning, not just showing up all willy-nilly and having a conversation that leads back to 1970 to 1960 to 2000. No, strategically, it's going to take pre-planning. How can we keep this family? What do I need to keep this family safe? What do you need to keep this family safe? What has to happen? What do we need? Like, what were the boundaries that were broken? So in the design process, you answer the A, the who's going to be a part of it, the planning and the designing. Who's going to be part of it? Who's mature? Everyone's not mature. Some people are just emotionally dysregulated. Some people are on drugs. Some people are too angry, and it's going to take them a while. They may have to see forgiveness and reconciliation modeled before they get on board. So who is mature? Who can make the meeting productive? You may have to have sub-meetings. Like when this person gets with this person, they kind of get together and they feed off of each other and they bring a lot of negativity to it. But alone, they're okay. So you might have to do some splitting. It takes someone, hopefully it's the elders. Sometimes it's the youngers because that's just the way it is. But hopefully in planning, it's going to be the person, I guess, who is most mature and who has the most knowledge of how to get together. And so you may have to have micro meetings before you have larger meetings, and do that assessment and be honest and let everybody know that you do plan to touch bases with, either the heads of the family or the family, but you want to be strategic, right? And you want to find the people who can be helpful and not people who are just going to drag the process, make it negative, and bring up new issues, right? And so that leads to the next one. And you have to decide, B, what are the issues? What are we going to discuss? Are we going to get, really detailed and petty? Or are we going to do general themes of how are we going to be safe? Who was disrespected? Who had the injury? What are we going to discuss? We're just not going to vent. Is this going to be a venting session? No, it's not. It's going to be a planning and a restoration process. So that has to be very important, that we don't bring up new issues, but that we go back to what the violation was. It can even be formatted where people write down what their issues are. And this can be written down in the form of the molestation, the betrayal. This is the issue. How can we keep people safe? How can we keep people to be loyal to their word and be responsible when they say they're going to do something, to do something. So again, C is going to be when. We don't have meetings late because at night, because our amygdala is overactive, we're oversensitive, we're spent. It's just different things change and we're unable to control ourselves and we're more stimulated at night. So these type of meetings are best in the morning after a good night's sleep. And that's just, I've seen it work best. So be very strategic on when. If someone's sick, that's not a win. If someone's mourning or if there's something traumatic, that's an emotional vulnerability. They won't be in their prefrontal cortex. They may be exasperated with an emotional experience. So we have to wait until they're good. And then we want to make sure it is definitely in the morning or midday. The longer the day goes on, we lose ground. So these are morning type of structures. We're our best in the morning. And then where, this is important, like where are we going to begin the process of reconciliation? Not on the phone, not through text. I know in the pandemic, we had to communicate that way, but in person is best. In person is best because you get to really see the facial cues and you get to feel the spirit and the love, and it just changes things. Even if someone is speaking, you get to feel what they're feeling, because we're all interconnected. The law of entanglement in relationships, we can feel that. So we want to have in these serious planning and restoration and reconciliation, when we come to the table, we need to come, we need to be able to feel each other. And then it needs to be a neutral environment, not a place that's triggering, not a place where the person you feel is in control is having it at their house and it's home court advantage, kind of like with the sports, home court advantage. People don't like home court advantage because it's home court advantage. You want to go to a neutral place, and that neutral place may also be therapy. It may be church, and it may be a trusted, mature person's home who's neutral, where you feel like this is neutral ground. We all get along with this person. This person is not really directly involved in the issue, and they're fair. And how, we talked about that, like, how do we do it? I've been giving you dropping little hints to that. It is deciding what we want that's feasible and what the mission statement is. Because if we go outside of the mission statement, then we get to reroute it. We need direction so that it doesn't go 50 places. The purpose of the reconciliation is to acknowledge the breach and to find a strategy for us to keep each other safe. That's a mission statement, and you get to decide it. We get to decide how we're going to keep people safe from molestation, safe from abuse or physical abuse, verbal abuse, whatever it is coming together with a mission statement. How we're going to keep the family together. How are we going to plan events to keep the family together? On those notes, that's the how. So in the action steps to reconciliation, after you plan it, then in the actual, at the table, what has to happen is you're going to process the emotions. Now, we don't want to drag it out, but we want to be transparent, because sometimes people, all the time and at the table, people need to feel the impact. There needs to be vulnerability, because we have an idea of what people think and feel, but no one expresses their emotions like the person who's experiencing that. And it allows us to re-enter into their world. So that is the first step in rejoining, is re-experiencing someone's world, their vulnerabilities, their needs, their ideas, how they felt, what kept them up. So this is a place to know that you may need some tissue, and you may need some to be able to emotionally contain yourself so that you can emotionally contain the environment. It's going to be triggering and it's going to be emotional. Just expect that. And so then you're going to want to have some personal accountability. And this has to be a safe place, you all. All of the things I'm saying is the healing place. The reconciliation table is a sacred place where we create an environment similar to the environment that God created for Adam and Eve, of peace and not attacking, but of safety and love and acceptance. Because if there's love and then there's acceptance, there's safety. And then you can take personal accountability. You can let down your armor of defense and just take accountability and be honest. I never felt good enough. I felt left out. I was molested, and that's why I did that, or that's why I turned the other cheek when this person molested that person, because I didn't want to deal with it, because it triggered my feelings of vulnerability. And just allowing each other to hold space and to share the pain connected to the incident and taking accountability. Nothing creates safety like accountability. Because when people are denying it, then you don't feel safe, because you think they'll do it again because they don't see it. But if they see it and acknowledge it, then I can be safe. And then there's to determine, like we said, to be willing to commit to the process. Commit. Like if I get uncomfortable, I'm not going to get up and walk away. I'm going to sit through it. The only way I'll get up is if I'm being verbally attacked or physically attacked. And if I need a moment, I will raise my hand and ask respectfully for a moment. If I need it, if I can't do it, I need to be honest and respectful and verbalize that as well. Commit to honesty and loving, respectful communication. Because as we stated, love needs to travel faster than honesty. Sometimes honesty travels faster than love. And we just feel like, well, I told you, I just thought you should know. I spoke the truth. That's my truth. And it's okay to bring your truth, but can we let your truth be followed by love? Like, can love lead it? Can love hold it and lead it? Can it be sandwiched in between love, and love carry it and love cover it? And then you give us your truth, so that your truth doesn't heal and doesn't hurt and harm and destroy and cause further damage. More people are destroyed in the act of reconciliation than anything, because you're re-injured, or it's a time to say how you really feel, and so you create another offense. So be very, very, very careful to let love travel faster than honesty. And then when you come to this, you may have a list of grievances, things you want to say, how you want to say it, and you're ready. Check you're ready, because ready needs to be ready to listen. Remember in our communication module, we talked about communication begins with listening. So when you come to this table, come with the agenda that, what am I going to learn? Become curious. What am I going to learn that I didn't know about the people at the table? What am I going to learn about their experience? What do they need? What are they saying? What do they want? Because you're sowing respect by listening, and then when it's your turn, it should be reciprocated. Validate. You can't validate if you don't listen, because that's invalidating. Speaking over someone and belittling, or saying what they really meant, and not letting them communicate their own experience and disrupting their experience, it's invalidating. And if you don't have validation, the meeting won't be successful. Validation, again, as a review, means I see you, I hear you, and I understand. If that's lost, fold it up. You can't go any further, because you're going to have shutdown, and you're going to have anger and shutdown. If people are not validated, you're going to experience anger and shutdown. And so we're here to create peace at this table of peace and reconciliation. And then there's apology. We talked about that. It is just not the general, oh, I'm sorry for whatever I did. That's not going to work. That's part of the accountability. Accountability is what it looks like in the apology is, I left you out. I didn't protect you. I betrayed you. I lied on you. I thought about myself. I talked about whatever it is being accountable in the apology. And then it is, after you hear it, being willing in the process to be forgiving. Just be ready and willing, and know that it's going to take that. It took that for you to get to the table. And if new information is given, then it's going to take you to walk in that same vein of, these people are human, I'm human, they're being honest, and, they're here. I respect that they're here telling me the truth. I respect that they're here because they love me and they're trying to fix this. And I choose forgiveness. I choose forgiveness. There's enough acknowledgement. There's enough visible remorse, and I choose it. I choose it. And just because you choose forgiveness, you still get to, after all of this, you get to look for the fruit. You get to still allow trust to be built, right? And that's number 11. You want to honor the growth and healing process by looking for evidence and fruit that there is a change. When trust is broken, you don't immediately get it back. You just get a willingness to build it. So coming to the table says, I'm willing to rebuild trust. I'm willing. You said enough. I feel you. We got an understanding. And now we have to rebuild. And by rebuilding, it takes time and it takes consistency. And then there's predictability. If there's consistency, there's predictability. And people show you that you can trust them. And then you build together and you rebuild and you rebuild. But if you can't get over it, that's unforgiveness. And so people don't have to spend the rest of their life proving to you, like, oh no, they didn't prove, well, they got 10 points off. They didn't. That's unrealistic. But being realistic and saying, no, they're trying, and I'm choosing to give them more trust. They're earning more trust, and I'm giving it to them. I'm investing, because all trust is an investment. Just like the stock market, you never know who's going to do what. But if you decide someone's worth investing in, if the relationship is worth investing in, then you're able to trust. And you're not so scared if they make a mistake. Your little heart can take it. Right? And so you're being protective, yes, and setting those good boundaries, but you're not rigid, and you're not where you are just telling people you're willing to rebuild, but you're so scared you can't rebuild and you're holding back. But it is giving a trust as situations permit over time. And sometimes it may never go back to a particular way. If there is a violation, someone does their jail time for molesting someone, well, you might not be able to be the one who watches the kids. That's just the truth of it. And they have stipulations like that, Megan's List or different things. And so you have to play it by ear, and you have to decide in your family amongst everyone. Someone doesn't feel safe, but someone feels safe. That becomes a person individuality and thought and desires for their families. But if you still don't feel safe, you don't, just because you forgive them and just because you reconcile, doesn't mean they have to become the family's babysitter. That doesn't. And people can change. We don't want to hold people immediately to their prior mistakes, but you also get to move at the rate that makes you comfortable. You get to move together in unity as you're comfortable. And the person who violated, they should be willing to let you move at the rate that you're comfortable, because they're the violator. They don't get to dictate how fast you forgive or what their privileges are. The people get to decide. The people who were violated get to decide and dictate how you move. That doesn't mean you just stay here forever and refuse to move, but it says you get to dictate the comfort level of the moving. And the person who did the violating, they need to consent to that and respect. That's part of the consequences. I have to regain trust. Okay, and then in this, the details, we talked about it, the processing the emotions prior to the meetings, during the meeting, personal accountability, how the breakdown, your role in the breakdown, because sometimes people don't feel like they did anything. And then just being the listening part, and being honest, the listening part. It's time to use all your skills, y'all. It's time to use the breathing exercises. It's time to use the grounding. It's time to do the facts or feeling checks. It's time to do all of those things. And when you're validating, I want to go back to that. These are the details of the list that I gave you. Let's do that. Let's take some time to look at that. One of the ones I want to look at is the validation piece. We are so emotional as a people, and there are emotional facial cues that we can send people that makes them have a double message. We could say, yeah, I hear you, I understand, but then we're just like rolling our eyes or looking the other way, or you know, we're invalidating with the rolling of our eyes and with our negative facial expression. So our words and our physical expressions, like we talked about in communication, they have to match. If we say we're in this because we want the relationship, our behavior in the conversation has to communicate, I want the relationship. My words have to communicate, I want the relationship. I just can't say I want the relationship and then my behavior is all over the place, my words are all over the place, but everything has to come into alignment so that we're really, really, really clear. So that we're clear. And we honor the growth and healing process of the relationship by just knowing the gracefulness. We all need grace. This is where the grace comes in. We all need the grace to grow. Grace to grow. And that's kind of why God puts us in families, and we start out as infants, we grow up together as children. It's a progressive state. We're still growing. Just because we're adults, it doesn't mean that we've stopped growing and we haven't stopped learning. So the growing and the learning is a continual process, and we get to grow in love. Now, I'm not saying we take abuse and say I'm growing in love. No, that's a hard no. But just knowing that I don't have to be perfect to be in this family. I don't have to be perfect to be loved. And I can be loved, and there can be boundaries. But realistically, at this table, we are agreeing that this is our family value, that we value personal growth and development. We value grace. We value reconciliation. We value those things. We value that we're being healed. We value that growth is a process. And as we're kind to one another and understanding, we facilitate growth. Because no one grows in criticism. No one grows in judgment. No one grows in negativity. So we're agreeing that we're going to honor growth. Like, we get to grow here. We get to grow in this family. And that's putting a Band-Aid on it too, because sometimes people get comfortable and be like, you know me, I didn't mean that. No, I know you, and I know that you need to grow. I know that you need to look at your behavior. And so while we honor the growth and healing process, we honor holding you accountable and holding ourselves accountable, that it's not permission to say, well, that's how they are. No, we honor the growth and healing process. And it is, key word, it is a process, meaning that it is going to take some time again. And then we want to establish at this table and monitor boundaries. We want to. We have to look at, are we a rigid, enmeshed family? Are we? Do we have one band and one sound to the tune of that we don't respect everyone's opinion and needs? Are we? Is there emotional blackmail, like where people have to agree or they're going to be kicked out of the circle? Is there? Like, what is the boundaries like? Do we allow certain family members to, because that's just how they are, to show up late, to show up with nothing, to show up with a bad attitude? We get to monitor and establish the boundaries so that everyone feels respected, like there's kindness, and that there's support. Might have to tighten that back up. Support's a big one. You show up for this person's party, but you don't show up for this person's party. You show up to this person's child's event, but you don't show. You have to commit to like the boundaries of support. Like inside of this family is support. And so be willing to restructure the boundaries for safety and then monitor it. Who's going to be on the wall? Who's going to be? Because sometimes what happens is you feel like, I don't want to be the one who's causing the problems. I don't want to be the one who's bringing up the issues. And so you want to have some flexibility there where you're not always calling foul and you're not always trying to get back to the peace table. These are basic conversations. The peace table is for when there has been an absolute breakdown and there needs to be re-strategizing and there needs to be a hard conversation about the future of the family. There's little conversations that you have before you get here. So you're not always calling a peace treaty or a reconciliation meeting. Reconciliation meetings could be avoided if we would learn to use our communication skills. When the offense happens, we address it immediately. So the monitoring of the breakdown of the reconciliation, that's bigger. That's when there's definitely, okay, we're back in those patterns of stonewalling. People are shutting down. People are not showing up at events. People are sending subliminals. It's just obvious when there becomes a complete fragmentation and breakdown. And that's when you respond to, can we sit down and talk? Can we have a larger meeting? But the actual offense, if you handle offense like offense on the moment, then that can help you to have a quick reconciliation versus coming to the table. Right? So these are designed when there has been estrangement or when you're at the break of an estrangement where people are at the point where I can't take this anymore, I'm leaving, and and it just seems like there's threat of losing the relationship. And it has to take time. Some people feel like it's too much work. Well, you have to choose your heart. It's hard being angry and sick, and it's hard having forgiveness and reconciliation. But the reward for reconciliation is the same reward as forgiveness. You are just blessing yourself with peace. You're blessing yourself with maturity. You're sowing mercy. You're sowing kindness. And you are in the cycle of receiving mercy and kindness, and so that you can grow, right? And you're not trying to recreate relationships to replace the old relationship, because guess what? Whatever you recreate, you're still going to have human beings in there, and human beings are flawed. So the payoff for coming to the table is pay now or pay later. You're going to pay. You're going to pay. You just have to decide how you're going to pay. And by getting these tools, it becomes less threatening and less difficult. And initially, it may be difficult to do this process, but as you get practice and as you continue to implement these skills and make this a normal part of your family functioning, as far as communicating and forgiving and coming here when you need to, it becomes less confrontational. It becomes more of how can we build? And you get to change the reframe. It's not like I'm going to the principal's office, because that's how it feels when you're accustomed to not having conflict resolution, which is the peace table. Then you think of it negative, like it's going to end in fighting. It's going to end with blows. It's going to end worse than it started. It's like I'm going to be shamed. I'm going to be spoken to negatively. No, that's not the objective. The objective is to look at, I have a chance to build. I have a chance to restore my brothers and sisters. I have a chance to bring health to my family. I have a chance to gain more strength, because where there's unity, there's strength. Some of us are not strong because we're so fragmented, and we're in illness because we're in I-ness. But when you come to the table and you decide, I get all of this support, I get the benefit, all the giftings in my family, I get to celebrate the family that God gave me. I get to reconcile. While there's breath and while there's life, I get to refuse to be to give this relationship away. I'm doing everything I can to sustain the relationship. And how beautiful when they show up to the table, can we acknowledge that? Thank you for coming to the table, because many won't come. Many are estranged, but we need to recognize the effort of coming and understand that we want to be patient. It's an act of learning and expanding and stretching yourself. People are going to be uncomfortable. People are going to be reluctant. So when we get here, we just acknowledge the gratitude of just showing up, just choosing to come to the table. Thank you for accepting the invitation. And that has to be our spirit. Like, not, well, you need to come. No, because we're choosing adults. Everyone is choosing to be in relationship. God allows choice. So when we all get to the table, the commonality needs to initially begin with, thank you for coming to the table. I don't know if you're spiritual or not, you might want to pray, but there needs to be an acknowledgement to cut through the ice and bring awareness to the fact that you came to the table. Many will not come to the table, but you came to the table, and the hopefulness we're going to borrow from prior experiences that this is going to be for our good. We're going to leave this table with more understanding, more compassion, clarity, and more determination to protect the safety of the family. Oh, this table is a beautiful table. It has to be prepared. It has to be in the right place at the right time with the right people with the right meal. But it is a beautiful table. And we all, if you're in the helping profession or even if you're a family member, we should be willing to invite people to the table. Why? Because we all want to be at the table of peace with God, or we all want to have the benefits of being in peace. Because when we're not in peace, we're in dis-ease. So we get to choose to come to the table. The invitation to come to the table. It might be a little scary, but the more love and transparency and just acceptance there is, oh, the table becomes beautiful. And just like with eating, we don't eat in our sympathetic, nervous state. If we're nervous, we can't eat. But when we're in our parasympathetic, when we're rested, that's called the rested and digested stage. So we just first make sure everyone is rested, respected, so that we can dine and we can trust and we can just fellowship and begin the process of unification through fellowship and communication and bonding. Remember that oxytocin? Coming to the table and connecting recreates the oxytocin needed to have the bonding effect. Come to the table. That's module. We're still in the module of reconciliation. What a beautiful table.